This is the Crush Crowdfunding Podcast, the #1 place for people who want to launch on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. My name is Nalin, and I invite you to join me for tips, hacks, and insights to get you launched and fully funded. Hey everyone, welcome to another session of the Crush Crowdfunding Podcast. I'm really excited to have you here today and to really talk to you about crowdfunding and how you can absolutely crush your goal on Kickstarter and absolutely crush your goal on Indiegogo. This morning, I wanted to talk about just entrepreneurship stuff, right? Just very, as a crowdfunding creator, you're kind of setting yourself off on this path to be an entrepreneur. Whether you're interested in the ideas of entrepreneurship, the ideas of that, founder life, the idea of being someone who, identifies or doesn't identify as an entrepreneur or not, by, building this product and launching your idea, you're essentially becoming an entrepreneur, whether you think you are or not. And so I wanted today to talk about a few things that have to do with entrepreneurship. And one of the main things is kind of trusting your instinct and simplifying, right? That's kind of one of the most important things to do. And as entrepreneurs, we keep trying to follow all these shiny objects. We keep trying to learn all these things. We keep trying to figure things out. We keep trying to do more and more and more and more. But sometimes the answer to your question as an entrepreneur is just, to slow down. Sometimes the answer to the question is to just kind of stop, take a look at what is going on, and realize that everything that you're doing might be just overcomplicating things for yourself. So let me take myself as an example, because why not, right? I'm working with people in crowdfunding. I'm trying to learn strategies and learn tactics and teach these strategies and tactics to entrepreneurs who want to crowdfund their stuff. And so I'm pretty much an open book. So recently what I've been trying to do is I've been trying to grow this group on Facebook. I've been trying to grow this group of people who want to create and launch board games on Kickstarter. I've been, trying to grow that. And I made a goal for myself about a month ago that pretty much said, hey, I'm going to do whatever to get this group to 1,500 people. This was a month ago. I had about 700 people. And so I was going to try to more than double it, double that group in October, November, December, in about 3 months. That was my goal. Right, more than doubling the group members in about 3 months. And so what I set off to do was make a list of all the things possible to do. I actually asked people on Facebook too. I was like, hey, how do you grow the groups? How do you grow your groups? How do you grow your email list? How do you make sure that you get to this goal, right? How do you, as content creators and entrepreneurs, as people who need your own lists, need your own groups, need your own kind of people to talk to and talk about when it comes to whatever you're doing, right? Whatever domain of expertise you're in, what do you do to grow your group? And so lots of people came in and said what they were doing. People were running virtual summits. People were talking about branded content. People were talking about things like partnerships. People were talking about a lot of things. Right? People were talking about a lot of things. And I was like, great, there's a lot of these ideas. And so I took down all these ideas. The board, there's a board behind me, a whiteboard behind me. And, it was full of ideas. I just kept writing and writing and writing all these ideas and taking down notes and coming up with all these different ideas. And then I was like, great, these all seem like amazing, incredible ideas. Let's do all of them. I just said that to myself. Let's do all of them. Why not, right? Because if things don't stick, then I tried them. If things work, then that's great. And so I think there were 15, maybe 20 ideas on the board or something like that. And so I set off to do them. I started doing, it was things like, how do you run, running a virtual summit just for marketing for board games? And I was like, okay, let's start learning how to run virtual summits. It was things like, write weekly blog posts. And so I started drafting these blogs for every single week from September all the way till December. There were things like it was like partner with other brands and create like exclusive content or exclusive whatever for the actual Facebook group itself. There's all these different things. And I was like, okay, well, if there's all these different things, then, let's do them all. And so again, I was like trying to figure all this out. I was doing all these things. And then like a week or two into it, probably 2 weeks into it, I started feeling that weird feeling in the bottom of your stomach when you're not really trusting what you're doing. And I started feeling kind of like pulled in multiple directions as all these projects were starting to be up in the air. I started to feel, that anxiety you get when you want to start, when you start the workday, and then you're like, oh, there's so much to do and I have no clue what to do because there's so much to do and so many things to figure out. And then there's all these issues that are popping up already. Like, for example, this like partnership with a different like company to create a exclusive product, right? So like, okay, cool. The legal terms are there, like how-to's there, like the timeline's really quick. And then it came to the fact that I have to like actually create an exclusive product. I have to like design it, make it, and like send it to them, right? And that was like, oh no, that's a giant like piece of the puzzle that I didn't think about. And I was like, oh no, I don't have the design skills. And then that started worrying me and like freaking me out and giving me anxiety. And then it was like, okay, partnerships with other groups. Okay, like which groups, who are the mods, who are the admins, how do I reach out to them? So like there was all these things that started to just like weigh down on me and start kind of stressing me out, right? Start giving me that anxiety, that stress, that like weird feeling in your stomach and on your shoulders. Your shoulders start getting a little heavy because I was like worrying all the time and thinking I wouldn't live up to my own expectations of all of this, right? And then the other day, luckily, I'm in this like bi-weekly entrepreneurship like talk with my sister, who's also an entrepreneur, and she's building up her own business, a habit coaching business, and she, is just killing it in that space. And so we have these like bi-weekly entrepreneurship talks where we just talk about our, issues and problems of being an entrepreneur and try to help each other out and like figure things out with each other, like together. And one of the things that it talks about was this, like the main thing I wanted to talk about was priorities, right? Like how to figure out my priorities and how to make sure that none of these balls are being dropped. How like the ultimate goal was to get to 1,500 people by the end of the year, right? That's the goal, right? Having a goal is good and a time that's specific, right? And then I was like, but I'm now doing all these things. I don't know what's more important. I don't know what's less important. I don't know which one I should prioritize. I don't know which one I should like continue pursuing. I don't know which one, and it kept going on and on and on and on. And then as we were talking, I was like, okay, well, the most effective thing this whole time has been pretty much like three things. The first thing, the most effective thing is this whole time of growing this group from 0 in April to about 700 people in September was threefold, right? One, finding specific groups where game designers hang out and just adding value through different posts about marketing, right? Just straight up doing that consistently. The second thing is to consistently be streaming, interviewing people about their games and their launch success, and putting it out there for people to listen to and understand. And the other thing is to be pretty semi-consistently writing really in-depth like blog posts about pretty much launching a game and marketing it and getting it live on Kickstarter. And so after just talking through everything and just realizing those were the core things that I actually start off doing to just even grow this group. Those were the core things that I like relied on. I explicitly studied. I made sure to implement correctly right at the beginning, and it grew the group really rapidly. With that said, I was like, wait a minute, why am I complicating things? Why am I complicating my life? Why am I overcomplicating things that I knew already worked? Why was I making myself jump through all these hoops? And I was thinking more and more about it. And a lot of the time it's just like probably just ego, right? Your ego as an entrepreneur, your ego as someone who wants to chase that new shiny object, wants to learn the coolest new thing, wants to understand the coolest new thing. And like, yeah, there's obviously times for that. There's times to learn and there's times to build something new, right? There's absolutely times for that. But most of the time, what you need to do is really look at what's been working and just doubling down on that, kind of really trusting that you know the answers yourself. You know, like in a lot of society, a lot of everything that we've been taught, a lot of everything that we've been taught is that we're not enough. We're taught that. It's unfortunate, but all through society, all through school, all through every, kind of formal education system, we've kind of been taught that we're not enough, right? We have to achieve the highest grades to maybe to start being enough. We have to be valedictorian to start being enough to be recognized for our work. We have to get this award, this trophy. We have to do all this to be recognized for what we know and what we can do. And we have to be able to go up a grade, go up and up and up a grade in order to be recognized. And if you don't meet these standards, like you're not enough. And then we, put these ideals of entrepreneurship on us as entrepreneurs. And we internalize this as entrepreneurs and say, hey, if this other person is doing this and I'm not there yet, I'm not enough. If this other person has grown their group to like 10,000 people and I'm not there yet, I'm not enough. If this person is like activating this type of, like cool marketing campaign and I haven't done it, then I'm not enough. And then we feel bad about ourselves. And when we feel bad about ourselves, we start kind of grabbing at straws. We start grabbing at, anything that we can kind of grab at to make ourselves feel like we're doing something more, to make ourselves feel like we're doing something better and we're doing something to push us forward, right? And that's kind of the curse of entrepreneurship in a way. Like a lot of people call it shiny object syndrome. A lot of people think that it's because entrepreneurs just like testing and trying new things, right? But I think on the flip side, it's not exactly shiny object syndrome. I think on the flip side, it's more like that we don't feel like we know enough and we don't feel like we are enough to do what our goals, to really just complete our goals, pretty much. We feel like we don't have all the skills and the tools and the know-how necessary to achieve our goals. But let's be honest, we do. We're set out on this path, and as entrepreneurs, we make sharp decisions. We are able to decide this is probably something good or this is probably not something good in that like an instant, because in our head, we're just seeing all these patterns show up in our lives of like, if things would work or if things won't work. And so basically what I'm trying to say is that like, as an entrepreneur, as a creator, as someone who's building a product from zero, and someone who's building this incredible idea from something you had in your head and you just, it's never been there before, right? Something completely new and novel, and there's like no blueprint for this, right? There's no blueprint. As someone who's doing that, be sure to trust in yourself, right? There's no need to look anywhere else because you know the answer. You know in your head, in your gut, whatever it is that you trust, right? You know what the right answer is. So be sure to trust in yourself. And from there, don't overcomplicate things, because we have a tendency to just try to do too much and try to do a lot, try to do too much, try to do a lot. And we have a tendency to just keep doing things, even though it might not be right, just because we're seeing all these other people do it, right? We have that tendency. So like, I don't know who needs to hear this today, but you're definitely enough. What you know is enough. You don't have to go and like buy another $3,000 course about how to like manufacture your product. You don't have to go out and like read another 30 books about how to market your stuff, like you're at this point because you know that you have to build this thing. You have to figure out how to build it, and you have to figure out how to market it, grow an audience, and start selling it. And you know this, right? So start being really, really choosy and really, really particular about the stuff that you consume, because sometimes you're going to think that what you're consuming is not enough, but really it is enough, right? And so basically, yeah, that was kind of the point and more of the story here. Like I was getting just bogged down by all these different things that I thought I had to do, right? It was like, I was like, there's all these people looking at me and I have to do it. But like, honestly, not really. Everyone has their own lives. Everyone's doing their own thing. Everyone's like worried about their own project, worried about their own, I don't know, their own pets, worried about their own like daily life, worried about whatever it is that people worry about. And that discomfort, that fear of people judging you, that fear of people keeping their eyes on you at all time, that fear of like being not enough in the eyes of people, that's something that you probably created in your own head. I know I did. I know I did. Like no one was there being like, Nalin, did you, enact plan 7 of this list that you had that you were brainstorming the other day in September, right? No one did that. It was all in my head. And oftentimes, again, it's going to be a lot of those fears, those worries. They're all in your head, right? They're all in your head, and you are limiting yourself to what you can do. And, I think a lot of the time, people who don't become entrepreneurs, or people who don't like entrepreneurship, or people who kind of stop, or people who fail and then they don't come back again, right? Fail and they don't try to relaunch, or fail and they say, this was an absolute failure, I'm a failure. People who kind of say that or experience that or feel that, like, I think they took too much of formal education into their head, and they haven't kind of reconceptualized like what it is to be in life and what it is to screw up all the time and still move forward, because that's how businesses are built, right? Like, let's take, I don't know, like Elon Musk, right? He is literally building spaceships to go to Mars right now. And like, how many times he failed? Probably hundreds or thousands of times. He publicly failed too. Some of his rockets like blew up on the launch pad, right? But he's not like whining or crying. Like, he keeps going. People like Jeff Bezos, who owns Amazon and is now like probably like the richest person in the world because he just owns everything, right? Like he probably failed a lot of times. Tony Ma, who owns like Alibaba, like he failed a ton of times. I read his biography. It was an autobiography, one of the two. I read his book. And he failed a lot of times. He said, people said no to him all the time. He like didn't even know English, and people said, no, you're never going to be an entrepreneur because you have to know English, right? Like, there's all these different things that people will tell you to your face, or you'll experience all these failures. And a lot of the time we just put it on ourselves that we can't do it when it happens, right? When we fail, we put it on ourselves that we can't do it, but actually we can. Right? You just like pick yourself up, learn what was working well, learn what was not working, and just lean into stuff that was working. So that's kind of like what I'm trying to do now, like with this group, right? I'm just leaning into things that I know work for sure, because I've consistently shown it to work these past few months. And so I'm just going to continue leaning into it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to just keep going, right? All this nonsense about people judging you, all this nonsense about people, talking about you, all this nonsense about like all these obligations that you have to other people is just that. It's nonsense. It's stuff that you created for yourself, or stuff that society created for yourself, and you don't need that. If you want to be great, if you want to do something that is bigger than yourself, trust in yourself, because at the end of the day, that's going to be the person who makes it happen, you. And so it's time to love yourself, trust yourself, and listen to whatever voice you have in your head, listen to whatever gut feeling you have, listen to whatever it is that give you input and insight into what to do next. Lean in on that. Lean in on the information, lean into what you know, and, let's go out and just like crush it and just launch things, make a difference, and just change the world. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Crush Crowdfunding podcast. If you enjoyed this episode or found it helpful in any way, be sure to leave a review so that other people will have an easier time finding this crowdfunding content. I hope that this podcast was helpful in your crowdfunding journey, and I can't wait for you to go out and crush it. Thanks for listening to the Crush Crowdfunding podcast at crushcrowdfunding.com. Tune in the same time next week for more ways to crush your launch.